No, I'm not going to be polite. I'm not going to be polite. If your policies work, you're going to be responsible for the deaths of 3 people. All right, so don't forget that. I do.
I will tell you, just to counter that, I am going to be civil in this discussion. I am a Republican. I give a lot of friendly campaign advice to my Democrat friends. Believe it or not, I have a lot of Democrat friends. And one of the problems that the left has is they are getting very personal, very nasty, and that's why they will continue to lose at the ballot box. So this will be an interesting discussion, but hopefully we can keep it simple.
I'm not the left.
All right. So I'll pick the questioners and be even across the room to make it work. So remember, only Tyler's can ask questions, and you can ask it both or one.
Harvey Landers. It's my understanding that the agricultural sector in the U.S. has expressed, many have expressed concerns that they would have labor shortages if undocumented illegals were not present. What's your perspective on this, and what is your solution, considering that many Americans don't want to do that kind of very difficult work?
Let me just ask you real quick. Let him keep the mic for a second. Why do you think Americans don't want to do that work?
It's been my understanding in reading over the untruthful internet that there are places now in the U.S. that are expressing concern over not having sufficient agricultural labor. Americans don't want to do that work, and when they've done it, they have stopped.
Why not? Why don't they want to do
I
it?
don't think it's a question for me. I'm asking the question to you.
I know. I'm just trying to understand. So. I think that's a degree. Yeah. No, the situation. So no, I agree. I agree. Actually, Americans don't want to do that work. Now the question is why. What I was hoping to get out of you, because I think this is what a lot of people say, is that wages are too low for those jobs. Right? Wages are too low. I don't want to do that work. I don't want to be out, taking oranges off trees, working ag. I don't want to do that because wages are too low. Now, what we have is a system here. And wages are too low for those jobs. And those wages need to go higher. But what doesn't make them higher is by allowing illegals. Oh, I forgot I only got a minute. I want to avoid that bill. People put the fear of God in me. But when you hire illegals, illegal aliens, to do those jobs, the ag industry knows that they can pay them less. When they pay them less, it lowers that wage across the entire industry. So what we need to do is if we stop hiring illegal aliens and we start hiring Americans, they're going to have to bump those wages up, and people will want to do those jobs. Sorry.
I have a little experience with this. When SB 1070 was brought forward by Senator Bennett, I debated him. We also did a meeting with Heracopoulos and growers of Plant City and educated the states, the President of the Senate, that if you get rid of undocumented labor, you'll destroy the forward agriculture business, period. It requires not only labor, but skilled labor, okay? So what we need is comprehensive immigration reform. Most of the people that are here just want to work. They want to eat because of NAFTA and CAFTA have destroyed their agricultural abilities in Mexico. Matter of fact, farmers in the United States are very concerned about Trump putting this tariff because they're not going to be able to sell the corn in Mexico. So what's happening is that we need comprehensive immigration reform to allow workers to come and then go home. They're not here for the American dream. They're trying to feed themselves. So yes, it would destroy agriculture. There's a pamphlet on your table I dropped off that talks about myths. There's a little piece on that, what happened in Georgia. So please take a look at that.
Pat Gerard. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. What does that mean to each of you?
I love this country. What makes it beautiful is the diversity of people. Imagine all one, like you go to Japan, it's all one, you go to Korea, it's all one. Here we're everything, we're everybody. but we must learn to respect and love and allow more in. What people don't understand, and this goes back to the first question, in 1960, 50% of Americans did labor. Today, only 10%. Baby boomers are retiring. I'm at the end of that. We're starting to retire. Who's going to come in behind us to prop up, Social Security and everything else and do the work and do the labor? We need immigration. Every country that succeeds is about immigration. So we need comprehensive immigration reform, not keeping people out, but making the system work. And shame on Congress for not doing their job. We're not saying let everybody, and let's say fix the problem.
You cannot. You cannot go after comprehensive immigration reform until you have a border that is totally secure and people aren't coming over. And that's a fact. Look, if you went home right now after this lunch and you open up the door and there was a huge puddle of water because your pipe burst, right? What do? Do you go grab a mop and start mopping, or do you shut off the pipe? And that's what you have to do first, is you have to shut off the pipe, you have to close the border, you have to protect the border, and then at that point you can start having discussions, because this is going to be a difficult debate. You have DACA, you have illegal aliens that have been here for 20, 30 years, obviously young children, you have people that have created jobs, that are immigrants, that are looking for visas, but this needs to be addressed in a step-by-step. If Congress can't even get the border right, how are they going to get a total immigration system revamped that's going to affect tens of millions of people? And that's what we need to look at, and that's what we need to focus at first. That's a quick minute.
How do you say your name? I'm Helen Riley. I want to know how each of you think that a wall is going to impact immigration when we have so many other needs that need to be met.
I think a wall is very effective. And when I worked on Capitol Hill and I handled immigration for Congressman Vernon Kennedy's congressman down in Sarasota, Manatee County, I actually went toward the border for 2 nights. 2 days, 2 nights. And it was fascinating. You're there with the Border Patrol, you really see what they're up against. And there are sad stories. There are humane, really, issues going on that need to be taken a look at. People are trying to squeeze in, semi-trucks as they're coming in. It is dangerous, right? But when you look at the border, I will tell you, we turned off the lights of the car. We wore night vision. We drove around at about midnight. We apprehended at least probably a dozen illegal aliens crossing the border, and that was areas where there wasn't a wall. It's right in the El Paso sector. There's portions that have a wall, don't have a wall. The portions that have a wall, they have less Border Patrol agents because they don't need as many.
Answer the question, please.
You're asking about the wall,
I'm
right?
asking how the wall is going to solve the problem.
How the wall is going to solve the problem?
And how it can be a priority.
It's going to stop the flow. Can I finish?
Well, yeah, so. No, you.
I'm against, well, listen, we want secure borders, even if you're pro-immigration reform. Who doesn't want secure borders? But I want to remind everybody, the only terrorists that came to this country through the border came through Canada. But we don't have a wall there. The Irish Prime Minister was here 2 weeks ago, I remember, talking about undocumented immigration. They come through Canada. Canadians come through Canada. British come through Canada without papers. But they just happen to be white and speak English. Not that doesn't have anything to do with it. Okay? And Serbians that came here, probably through asylum, are probably white. You have to look at the discrepancies between the brown and blacks. For example, Haitians, the discrimination against Cubans, the immigration status is. It's horrendous. So the wall is important, not the wall, but taking care of our borders. But no, but what really fuels this, so that you know, is privatizations of prisons. I hope somebody asks a question on that.
We're moving up this way. I think Mr. Dunn was next, and then I'll move that way.
Thank you. I'm very disappointed, Tom Dunn. I'm very disappointed and saddened, Mr. Ziegler, that in your opening comments, you attempted to demonize these people that have come here. You have called them illegal aliens, like they're some sort of freaks from outer space or a horror movie. and you cite these criminal instances that that horrify people, of course. But the fact is, why do you demonize these people when their criminal rates of incidents are actually less than most other citizens?
So, criminal or illegal alien is actually a term used by the courts. So this is an undocumented, immigrant. That is not a term used by the courts. Okay, that is a term from the left that they use in their PR to water down this issue. Criminal, again, illegal alien is a term that is used by the courts. It was used in Arizona versus the USA just a couple years ago. So that's why I use that phrase. When I talk about criminal illegals, it's because it's a major, major issue. And every crime committed by a criminal illegal alien is a crime that we don't need. Yes, we have our own criminals. We absolutely have murderers, rapists. It happens in our country, right? What we can stop are people coming in this country illegally, and we can stop those crimes because we don't need those crimes. We've got enough of our own. So that's why I mentioned that.
I love the term because it brings $5 billion plus industry to the privatization of prisons. Why is drugs illegal in this country? I would say because they want to keep attorneys like me in business and make money for privatization of prisons. But now we don't have just people who smoke pot. We have 11 million documented. You detain them for 1 day, it's $200 from the federal government, or for a week, a month, billions of dollars. Not just the private prisons, but the counties. If you have a county sheriff that houses federal people, detention center, they're making big money. This is a big hotel industry. And if you follow the money, who pays the politicians and the right, and Jan Brewer and those guys when we started with Arizona, it comes from ALEC, the GEO Corporation of America, CCA rather, and you will find the money that if you label people undocumented illegal and treat them subhuman, you have a right to lock them up and make billions.
Peter Goldenbach. This is something I wanted to ask Mr. Trump, but now I can ask you. This is something I wanted to ask Mr. Trump, but now I can ask him. Did your racism and hatred come from your friends, your family, or your church?
Is this your club? I don't even think I need to respond to that. I am not a racist. I'm someone that loves my country. I'm someone that has 2 daughters that are, one is 3.5, one is 1 year old. And this isn't just illegal immigration. I know we're talking about that, and we're talking about, illegal aliens in this country right now. There are other government programs where we're picking up the tab that our country cannot afford, that we are taking, whether it's healthcare, whether it's all these other programs that we're talking about, and we're taking that tab and we're passing it on to the next generation. So this isn't a racist thing. I know the speaker up here wants to blame and keeps talking about white and all that. I will tell you, I will challenge you at the end of this talk, who talked more about skin color, myself or this individual here, or racism like yourself. This is not a racist issue. I'm kind of offended that you would even reference that. That is disappointing to hear.
It is clearly racism, and it's about white privilege, about male white privilege, and we all, black, white, brown, are and can be racist. It's a part of our tribalism, as long as you're not part. How can you be a German, a Nazi German, and down the road in Dachau or Auschwitz or wherever it may be, and these atrocities are happening to do nothing about it because you can dehumanize somebody. This is not akin to white people, make that very clear. It's something as human beings we have to psychologically overcome. And we need to learn to understand that we can hate others because they're gay, or because of their color, or because of their language. And if you're educated and aware of this, then you will understand that it's not an attack on one group, but it is about dehumanizing people, about greed, about profit. And after all, it was the brown people that we hit before all us white people.
Again, talking about race.
Yes.
Tiffany Vigas. I don't think it's a question of race, I think it's a question of money. That's one of the primary reasons people give immigration reform is because it's costing Americans money. So we can't afford certain programs because the money is costing us illegal immigration. So my question is, what is the cost going to be of implementing these reforms, of cutting off the flow and putting the wall up and all the additional resources we'll need to enforce these policies versus the money we're supposedly losing due to this increase in immigration?
Yep. We're a nation of laws. We need to protect our border, whatever that costs, right? Now, when we start talking about the wall, people start throwing out numbers like $20 billion, and now all of a sudden people have concerns with the cost, right? I was talking to someone about this the other day. If Trump's legacy is that he got the Democratic Party and the left to finally care about what something costs, that'll probably be his greatest legacy, being president. But obviously they're taking every angle to shoot this down. I will tell you, $20 billion, a lot of money, right? In Washington, they spend $10 billion, $5 billion, $15 billion. There are days where they take those votes and you have no idea. You're sitting here at Tiger Bay, they're passing these votes, they're just racking up the cost. So when you throw out the number like $20 billion to secure our border, I actually think it's a cost that we need to spend. I think it's worth it. And we need to look at other areas to maybe cut to get that money. But it is something that's going to save us a lot of money going down. How does it save us money? With all the programs that we spend, whether it's education, medical expenses, housing them in the jails that we talked about, that's where it's going to save us money down the road. So it's an investment.
Let me tell you, immigrants contribute to this great country. You know how you get a job in Tropicana, you're undocumented, and I know this for a fact, come on, huh? You come up with a fake Social Security, go down there, and they give you a job. And guess what happens? You get a paycheck. You're Maria Perez, Juan Picadillo, doesn't matter. And guess what the employer does? They take out your payroll taxes, they take out Social Security, they take out federal income tax. They take all these taxes. Does that worker get any of that? No, not one penny. And guess what? In the state of Florida, where most of our income comes from revenue comes from sales tax. Guess what you do when you're documented? You buy things? Heck yeah. They contribute a lot to our taxes. Well, how about if you're undocumented and you want to rent a place? You got to live somewhere. Are you paying a landlord, some slumlords? And I can show you in Manatee County because I've dealt with that issue in some of the county commissions. And some slumlords, and I can show you that they're paying for the property taxes. So they pay taxes and they get very little tax.
Jim, I'll give you next.
Hi, I'm Corey Adler. This is for you. This is a serious question, but when the Pilgrims came, they were illegal aliens. And when we kidnapped and brought millions of Africans to our country, they were illegal aliens. Who got to decide when, which generation became illegal? And when does our country address things that happened a long time ago with people who came here against their will?
I think once we establish a country, we establish a U.S. Constitution that pretty much set it in stone. When we are a country and we have citizens and we're a country of laws, the question I have for you is, do we not have citizens? Do we get rid of citizenship? Do we get rid of borders? Do we just merge with Mexico and Canada and just call ourselves, North America, the North American country, where everyone can do whatever they want in whatever country they want? So I think it's easy to refer to the past. We have to learn from the past. But going forward, we are a country. We're a legitimate country that has citizens that should follow the law, and we should protect our own. Look, we're paying into the system. All of us get taxed. All of us are putting money into the system. We need to ensure that we take care of people like ourselves. We need to take care of our veterans. There's a lot of veterans in line. That's another issue that I did, that are waiting for benefits, and that's where the money should go instead of other individuals that are not citizens, that are not from this country, that are illegally in this country.
Well, there's a lot of undocumented people who are veterans or have family members who are veterans. So don't forget that. I would agree with you with that. But don't forget the undocumented. Look, we're supposed to be kind human, about families, the Christian values, etc., whatever that means. We're supposed to be genuine, and we're losing our soul. We've lost our soul in the past over certain issues, and we can't be that way. We need to fix the problem. We need to secure the border. We need comprehensive immigration reform. And it doesn't, I mean, this is really about money. I like what Tiffany said. It's about greed. It's what fuels this, more so. But they use the racism and xenophobia and all these things to get to the dollar. Follow the money.
My name is Jim Gillespie. Gentlemen, this is the worst exchange I've ever heard. You made generalizations about racism, white privilege. Those are propaganda words. What you should have done is had an educated debate. Both positions can be respected. Now, give us some ideas, such as the Canadian immigration system, where one of the top requirements is you have skill. I haven't heard anything but almost propaganda.
Well, no, and I agree with you, and it's tough when you're getting questions about does your racism come from your church or your family, and that's really where the questions have been centered. I will tell you, that's why I mentioned the merit base, because you're exactly right. And when you look at legal immigration, that is our opportunity as a country to build our country in a positive direction, right? We have a choice. That allows us to be selective. Right now, we cannot be selective with our citizens when someone gives birth, like my wife gives birth. That individual is an American citizen, right? We inherit that individual after they're born. With our immigration system, if we turn it into a merit-based system, we look for individuals that have skill, that have education, that maybe have net worth, that can come in here and we can import that skill and we can import those positive benefits to our country. So I actually agree with you when you start, what you were referencing there is the merit-based. I did mention that a little bit earlier, but unfortunately the questions aren't necessarily on those issues. But that's where we need to go, because that's our one chance as a country to select where our citizens are and how our country is going to be built. So I'm a big fan of immigration. I think you could even talk about increasing immigration if you were to shut down the border, but that's a good opportunity there.
I don't need to apologize to you because I see it every day and I'm tired of it. Try to pick a jury with white people, white older men, and have a Latino and see what you get. See, you want discrimination rates? I've come into the courts and see it. Let me take you to the jails. Let me take you to the fields. Somebody asked me in the chamber, what a great country. I said, yeah. Because you go to my house, we go to your house, we come here, we go there, it's wonderful. But let me show you fifth world conditions. Let me show you the other side of how they are. So I don't apologize for that. I'm speaking the truth. If you want to sugarcoat it, ask him to come and speak. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's the truth, and I work with it every day. And when you see those children crying, and when that lady from El Salvador gets deported because of policies like that, and they get killed by Mar 13 or the gangs, based on policies that the United States implemented with not only NAFTA and CAFTA, which we haven't talked about, what we did in Central America in the 80s, that's why they're coming, and then we blame them. I don't apologize for the Nazis. I wouldn't apologize for the Nazi Germany either.
Great. This is the last question I'm going to begin.
Thank you. My question is Herb Haig, here in St. Petersburg. Mr. Trump, President Trump has told us that he was not telling us the facts about the immigration status of the President of the United States for years. That was a lie. Mr. Trump's wife was working here on a visa when she shouldn't have been. That was illegal. That was a lie. Why do you trust him?
Why do I trust him? Because if you just look at the past 2 months, he's been executing everything he said he was going to execute. Excuse me?
No.
If you look at it, since he's been in office, he's one of the few guys that actually, if you've ever worked in politics, what happens is during the campaign, you say you're going to do something, once you get in office, you move to the middle, you don't do it, you backtrack, you have all excuses. But what he's done is in the past 2 months, he's executed point by point by point everything he said he would do. So if I just look at his record being in office, that's what I trust him to do. Now, am I crazy about some of the stuff he tweets out? Can I talk about his past? No, I wasn't involved in it, right? The stuff he tweets out, I can't control. But I will say that he was doing all that, his past was exposed, and the American people came together and he was elected President of the United States. So now that he's in office and he's executing everything he said he's done, from my point of view, he's carrying out his promises, and that's why I trust him.
I miss Ronald Reagan. I miss George Bush. I miss Jeb Bush. I miss the old-time Republicans. I can't believe I'm saying that publicly, but it's the honest to God truth. It's not a Republican or Democrat thing. It's not a liberal or conservative thing, because I'm a fiscal conservative, and because I'm a communist. You hear that all the time. Believe me, it's ridiculous. I like making money. Okay, so it's about rational thinking and xenophobic actions and disrespect of women. If the Republican Party has any sense, they would reject this man, not the party, and seek real leadership. For God's sake, Jeb Bush wrote. Immigration reform was part of Jeb and George and Ronald Reagan and so forth. And my last point, when they say, well, he passed the asylum for people came back, that's because NAFTA happened after that.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Let's give them another round of applause. Thank you for being here. The winner of today's Tiger is Tiffany Fakis. Tiffany, you want to come forward? And with that, this meeting is adjourned.